After the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the Roman world began to change. His followers scattered across kingdoms and empires, carrying a message that would reshape history. Some traveled west toward Rome. Some disappeared into Africa. But one apostle vanished into the east. His name was Thomas. History remembers him as the disciple who doubted. But beyond the pages of the Bible, thus another story emerged. A story claiming that Thomas traveled farther than any other apostle. To the edge of the known world. In the first century, the East was not unreachable. Roman ships crossed dangerous seas. Merchants carried silk, spices, gold, and ivory, connecting the Mediterranean world to India. And somewhere along those routes, tradition says Thomas traveled, long before European missionaries arrived. An ancient Christian tradition already existed in India for nearly 2,000 years. Communities along the Malabar Coast preserved a belief. Did Thomas truly travel thousands of miles from Jerusalem to India, or did legend slowly become history? This is the investigation of the apostle who vanished east. Before history remembered him for doubt, Thomas was simply one of the 12. Little is recorded about his early life. Even his beginnings remain hidden in history. The Gospel of John calls him Didymus, meaning the twin. But beyond that, the man himself remains strangely elusive. Yet the few moments in which Thomas speaks reveal a very different personality than history often remembers. He was not cynical. He was thoughtful, observant, and perhaps more emotionally honest than the others. One moment reveals this clearly. As danger surrounded Jesus, many feared returning to Judea. But Thomas spoke with unexpected courage. Let us also go, that we may die with him. This was not the voice of a coward. It was the voice of a man deeply loyal, even in fear. But then came the crucifixion. Everything the disciples believed shattered. Then came the impossible reports. Jesus was alive. But Thomas was not there when the others claimed to see him. Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, I will not believe.
I will not believe.
For centuries, history would remember him as doubting Thomas. But perhaps his doubt was something else entirely. Not weakness, but honesty. A man struggling to believe after watching hope die. And then, according to the gospel accounts, Jesus came to him. my Lord and my God. The resurrection changed everything. The fear that once scattered the disciples slowly gave way to conviction. Thomas was among them. The man remembered for doubt had now seen for himself. But outside those walls, danger remained. The authorities who crucified Jesus still ruled the city. Yet the movement continued to grow. According to the book of Acts, Jerusalem became the center of a new faith. Then came Pentecost. A moment early Christians believed marked the arrival of the Holy Spirit. Something changed. The frightened disciples became witnesses. And their message began spreading beyond Judea, far beyond what any of them could have imagined. Early church traditions claim the apostles eventually separated. Each carrying the message of Jesus into different regions of the world. Some went west, others moved south. But according to some of the oldest traditions, Thomas looked east, toward lands the Roman world barely understood: Persia and Parthia. During the time of the apostles, the powerful Parthian Empire ruled much of the ancient Persian world, and perhaps even farther. The disciple once remembered for doubt was now preparing for the longest journey of all. To modern audiences, the idea sounds impossible. An apostle of Jesus traveling from Judea all the way to India. But in the first century, the ancient world was already deeply connected. Trade routes stretched across continents, from Rome to Egypt to Arabia, and far beyond the eastern borders of the Roman Empire. Persian merchants carried silk, incense, precious stones, and spices across these routes. And Roman ships sailed regularly across the Arabian Sea. Their destination was India, a land already famous throughout the ancient world. Roman writers described India as distant, wealthy, and mysterious. Its pepper, ivory, pearls, and fine textiles flowed westward into the empire. And somewhere along these routes, early Christian tradition claims Thomas traveled. The strongest traditions point eastward, toward Parthia. Rome did not control these lands. Different languages, different kingdoms, and different gods. For a Jewish disciple from Judea, this was another world entirely. Yet according to some of the oldest Christian traditions, he continued east. One text in particular preserved the story, the Acts of Thomas. Written generations later, its details remain debated by historians. Yet some names within the story proved surprisingly real. including a king known as Gondophares, a ruler once dismissed as legend until archaeology confirmed his existence. Suddenly, the story no longer seemed impossible. And somewhere beyond the eastern horizon, India awaited. The world he knew slowly disappeared behind him. Far from Judea, Thomas entered worlds shaped by different languages, rulers, and beliefs. The journey would have taken months, perhaps even years. The ancient world was vast and often unforgiving. Desert winds, bandits, disease, and violence lurked along the journey. Weeks passed beneath unfamiliar stars, far from Judea, far from the world of the Gospels. Yet the traditions surrounding Thomas continued pointing eastward. Eventually, the journey reached the eastern ports of the ancient world, where land gave way to sea. Beyond them stretched the vast waters of the Arabian Sea. Roman and Eastern merchants sailed regularly across the Arabian Sea. And somewhere among the merchants and sailors, tradition says Thomas boarded a ship bound for India. As the dangerous journey continued, shoreline faded behind him. Thomas left the familiar world forever. Ahead lay weeks of open sea. Though Arabian Sea was often ruled by seasonal winds, sailors depended on them for survival. For ancient travelers, the sea was both pathway and terror, filled with unexpected storms, shipwrecks, and even death. And when the sea turns against them without warning, they cry out to God in desperation. Survival rests beyond human strength. Yet ships continued eastward, driven by trade, wealth, and ambition. Weeks and months passed on the sea beneath open skies. Perhaps Thomas remembered the shores of Galilee, the voice of Jesus. The wounds he once touched with his own hands. The farther east he traveled, the farther he moved from the world of the Gospels. Ahead lay India, a land unlike anything he had ever known. With different languages, different customs, different gods. And somewhere along the Malabar Coast in India, the story of Thomas was about to begin. According to ancient tradition, Thomas arrived on the Malabar Coast of India. Far from Jerusalem, far from Rome. This was one of the great trading regions of the ancient world. Roman merchants had traveled here for generations.
Good.
For products like pepper, ivory, and silk. And somewhere among these crowded ports and trade routes, tradition says Thomas began preaching. The earliest communities may have formed among Jewish traders already living in India. Long before Christianity spread through Europe, small groups of believers may already have existed here. The traditions surrounding Thomas became deeply rooted in Kerala. For nearly 2,000 years, these stories endured. Tradition claims Thomas established 7 churches along the Malabar Coast. Whether every detail can be confirmed remains debated. But the persistence of the tradition itself is difficult to ignore. Thomas was no longer a traveler. He had become a teacher, a foreigner carrying a message from Judea into a civilization older than Rome itself. Different languages, different customs, different gods. And yet, the message spread. Along India's southern shores, small communities of believers quietly began to grow. One by one, new believers stepped into the waters, leaving behind old lives. Through forests, villages, and distant roads, Thomas carried the message wherever people would listen. At crowded ports filled with traders from distant nations, the gospel crossed cultures and languages. In quiet homes and hidden gatherings, faith began taking root across the land. By lamplight, the teachings were carefully preserved, so the message would outlive the messenger. Stories began to spread of prayers answered, and lives forever changed. Others describe confrontations with local rulers and priests. As the movement grew, resistance may have grown with it. But Thomas continued preaching. The man once remembered for doubt, now carried unwavering conviction. His journey had changed him, and perhaps history itself. Today, millions of Indian Christians still trace their origins back to Thomas. One of the oldest continuous Christian traditions in the world. Long before many European kingdoms ever heard the gospel, and at the center of the tradition stood Thomas, the disciple who once struggled to believe, now carrying faith across oceans and civilizations. As the communities surrounding Thomas continued to grow, opposition began to rise. Ancient traditions describe increasing conflict with local rulers and religious leaders. Some accounts claim influential families converted to the new faith. And with every new convert, the danger surrounding Thomas increased. Warnings came, threats followed. But the traditions consistently describe Thomas refusing to abandon his mission. The man once remembered for doubt, now stood with unwavering conviction. Many traditions place the final events of Thomas near Malabar, along the southeastern Coromandel coast of India. Near present-day Chennai, Tamil Nadu, communities preserved the belief that the apostle continued preaching there during the final years of his life. Though details vary between traditions, the central story remained remarkably consistent. Whether every detail can be historically verified remains debated, but the tradition itself endured for centuries. Thomas was condemned and eventually hunted. Some traditions claim he took refuge on a hillside outside the city. A man thousands of miles from home, far from Jerusalem, far from the Sea of Galilee. Yet according to tradition, he never turned back. Most traditions claim Thomas died by the spear. A martyr, an apostle, a witness. The man who once struggled to believe had carried his faith to the edge of the known world. And there, according to tradition, he died. But the story did not end there. The communities he left behind endured. Generation after generation, his memory survived. By the medieval era, Malabar had already become associated with the tomb of Thomas. And across India, the story of the apostle who came from the west continued to be told. As Thomas was gone, but the movement he had begun did not disappear with him. It continued to endure. Across the long shores of the Malabar Coast, communities continued preserving his memory through generations. The traditions surrounding Thomas survived wars, kingdoms, invasions, and even the rise and fall of mighty empires. Centuries passed, empires rose, empires collapsed and disappeared, yet the story of Thomas still remained. Even today, millions of Christians in India continue tracing their spiritual origins back to the apostle. One of the oldest continuous Christian traditions still surviving anywhere on earth. Long before Christianity spread across much of Europe, Christian communities were already gathering, worshiping, and praying along the coast of India. The traditions connected to the tomb of Thomas also continued enduring through the centuries. For generations upon generations, pilgrims traveled great distances to honor the apostle. Historians and scholars continue debating many of the details surrounding the story. Some traditions may contain elements of legend. Some details may never be completely proven with certainty. And yet the persistence of the tradition itself remains something truly extraordinary. Across oceans, across deserts, across countless centuries of history, the disciple once remembered for doubt became the apostle who carried faith farther east than anyone could have imagined. Far from his home, far from the world that had first known his name. And somewhere between history and tradition, his story still echoes across the shores and coastlines of India. The apostle who vanished into the east never truly disappeared from history. Thomas, centuries after his death, traditions surrounding Thomas continued to spread across the east. Early Christian communities preserved stories of his mission. By the 3rd century, many believed his relics had been carried from India to Edessa. From there, devotion to Thomas spread across the Christian world. Churches were built in his name. Pilgrims traveled great distances. Over time, Thomas came to be recognized as a saint. His memory endured in the Syriac churches and in the ancient Christian communities of India. Centuries later, portions believed to be his relics were carried westward, eventually reaching Ortona, Italy. Traditions linking Thomas to India never disappeared. Yet for many, the strongest echoes of Thomas still remain along the Malabar Coast. History cannot answer every question. And in the end, the doubter became one of history's furthest traveling witnesses.